All right, everybody, welcome. It is a fantastic Thursday. I don't even know. I think it's Thursday. Is it Thursday, Curtis?
It's Thursday, brother.
Okay. All right. Good. It's a good thing. Some
It's all
days,
getting blurry, but it's there.
yeah, no doubt. Dude, we got a great subject. We mentioned we have a tendency sometimes to go down so many damn rabbit holes, and you brought up this great thing. Let's figure out what we're going to talk about. So today, I'm excited about this, and you came up with this, so way to go. And it's needed. I think it's needed, and it's creating a winning culture. So, guys, we're going to talk about this from multiple perspectives. Um, and cultures become such that cliche word. What's your culture? What's this? And then we always ask it. And and Curtis, I don't know if you saw it, but I saw this article the other day. It's like, oh, your culture's irrelevant. Whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, dude, you've obviously never built a company. You know, or a successful company, right? Because every company, everything has a culture to it. Everything. It
Sure.
doesn't matter if it's a failing culture, a successful culture, a winning culture, a struggling culture, whatever it is, right? And so, and you and I have been in both, or all of them, probably in various different times. So let's get into it. And we were talking prior to going live. We both have these notes, and it's interesting. It's always interesting how aligned we are in a lot of these things, but then we come up with different stuff. So I started with this one, and this is kind of a base premise um, that I think the bigger the company, sometimes the harder this is to get to, and we'll go down that road. It's like, if you want to do something better, then you have to become someone better than who you currently are. In other words, you've got to embrace growth, and you've got to get uncomfortable, right? In what we are. Now, how many companies out there have a culture that is helping their employees, agents, whatever it happens to be, sales teams, to get better, right?
Sure.
As opposed to keeping them within a box of what the expectation is. So, um,
No, so yes, all of that. Um, I mean, you started out a couple of things. So we were talking, right? This is creating a winning sales culture, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
more specific to a sales team, sales organization. And then, you alluded to there being a culture. There's always a culture, good, bad, or indifferent. There's always a culture of some
yep.
kind, right?
Mhm.
And then, so I just wanted to clarify for those who might be like, what are they talking about? But anyway, you know, and yeah, we've been a part of all of them. But what you just said, which is, if I want to change things, you can't get to better until you get to different, right? So, and then you said it, you hit it. So, it all starts with leadership, right? Everything rises and falls on leadership, as John Maxwell says. And,
Yeah.
maybe that's not you as a leader, and yet who do you need to become in order to do that, right? So, it's funny. I always think of, you ever heard of Sasha Fierce?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know who Sasha Fierce is?
Yeah.
It's,
I think I think
Beyonce's
the
alter ego in order for her to jump on stage and perform the way she does. Because
yes.
it's not in her personality, it's not her. And so she created this alter ego so that she could get up there and perform at a very high level.
I think I just saw something about that on, I don't know if it was LinkedIn or something, but
Yeah,
and that alter ego piece of it, right?
yeah,
What an amazing thing, because it's like 95% of the people are scared to get up on stage. It's one of the biggest
sure.
fears, and always has been. And if you create that alter ego to do it, then all of a sudden, I mean, that's an interesting. I don't know if I've heard it before, but I didn't put that
Yeah,
together. So yeah,
yeah. So,
that's
I
cool.
mean, and so, maybe it's not within many of these leaders, right? And
Yeah,
yet, um, you know, who do you need to become? That's just, immediately sort of what I think. And then, and you need to become that person, because everything again rises and falls on leadership. And that's where that culture begins. And then, what I've noticed is within many corporations, that this doesn't happen. There is culture, but there might often be several like little mini cultures within departments and stuff like that. And the problem or the challenge I think with that is they're different, and yet they're all inside or on the same boat, on the same bus, on the same ship, attempting to go in the same direction, and yet there's different cultures and different thought processes within each and every one of those departments.
Yeah. Well, so go back. You start with the leader thing, right? And then let's go to that piece of it, that those different cultures or different teams within a team. But so I hear you saying that a leader actually has to be the foundation of creating a winning culture.
Yeah. 100%. I believe that.
And when you have a leadership position, and I know everybody on here has seen this piece of it, sometimes a leader is scared of somebody else coming up with something new, right?
Sure.
So they stay within this box, and they have a tendency, if there's an insecurity in their leadership role or a experience challenge or things like that, that they will keep whoever it is that's in their team from learning and growing, just so that they don't have to learn and grow.
Sure.
And that's a challenge, right? Because it does, if I actually had a situation that was with me, that it was like, okay, I've got this mentor, and I was really happy with the mentor and learning things. And when I went back and told my direct person, I said, oh my gosh, this is, I had a great conversation with my mentor today. He actually showed me how to do this. And immediately I got well, that's not what they're there for. Right. You, as a matter of fact, you can't talk to them once a week anymore. You have to, it's only once a month, and you can't ask them to show you how to do anything. And I went, wait a minute, what?
Sure.
Huh? I mean, it's that acceleration of a process of putting yourself in the environment to grow, to win. And that accelerates your curve. Why would you want to hold people down? But I think we do that sometimes subconsciously too, for
Sure.
some efforts.
Well, you started to allude to it just a moment ago. Look, fear is a real thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Fear of judgment, fear of failure. I mean, let's face it, fear of being, what's one of the things they talk about, being a poser, right?
Yeah.
Being an
Yeah.
imposter
Yeah.
syndrome. That's, it's all fear based, right? So, yeah, I think we got to get over that. We got to roll the dice. Growth, as they say, growth's outside of your comfort zone, right? And so you got to get over it, especially if you're a leader. Somebody just popped up and said mindset is everything. 100% correct.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. It's, you think about that piece of it too. And the leader piece of it is where, and we said this, where the winning culture starts. It's got to start there. Otherwise, you're going to have a stagnation piece, and you're going to go backwards. Because if you're not moving forward, you're not growing. Your team's not moving forward. Your team's not growing. That means your business is not going to move forward, and your business is not going to grow, which means that you're going to eventually be gone, right?
Sure.
And you're going to be irrelevant. So either way, take your choice of whether you want to do that. But it is uncomfortable. And have you ever read Conversation with the Devil?
No.
So everybody knows Napoleon Hill, right? Think and Grow Rich, right? I mean, that's Napoleon Hill, one of the big. Well, this one is really interesting. It was not produced and it wasn't published until 60 years after he died, because they were scared of the book. Right. And and he goes through the book, and it's really interesting because it is a conversation with the devil. And that's how he phrases it. And it's the devil and him going back and forth in a conversation. And it comes down to why people succeed and why they don't. And you either have two different mindsets. You either have hope or fear. Right.
Sure.
And if you're living in the fear part of it, then you're drifting because you're scared to go out of your zone, and it's comfortable to stay in the fear-based world of reality of where you currently are. And you've seen that, and we see that, if somebody starts growing and developing and learning and all of this kind of stuff, well, the first people that are going to try to hold you back are the people that are around you, that like you, who you currently are.
Sure.
As opposed to who you want to become to really live the life that you want to live, right? And this is that conversation that you have with your sales teams too.
Sure.
You're like, guys, if you're comfortable doing what you're doing, then you're going to go backwards at some point.
Sure.
Right? And then you have the hope piece of it, which of course gets you out of your comfort zone. And it's like, which one of those pieces do you want to do? And which is 95% of the population is living in the fear piece of it. 5% are living in the hope piece of it, which is why 5% controls at this point. And it's not the 80-20 principle anymore. It's 5-95. 5% of the world controls the world, the money, the sales teams, everything. So, yeah.
I love that, and thanks for sharing that book. I'm fascinated and interested to actually read that. Nothing. And we all know this. It doesn't matter whether when you started as a child or whatever you've been in. Nothing that ever turned out to be great was easy, right?
Yes.
What they talk about, like growth, right? Growth is hard and whatever. So yet, again, we say, there's some great leaders out there, and yet I think they are. In fact, challenged, right, because of a little bit of this box and fear, and it's quite honestly holding them back. And as you stated, who do you got to become in order to make it happen? Being in leadership's a big role, big opportunity, big job, right? Lots of responsibility. It's not for the faint of heart, and if it's not, it truly is important, right? That you do take those chances and you do step outside of your comfort zone, because everybody's looking at you. You're leading the ship, my friend. And if you don't, gosh, and these are rough seas. Let's just call it that.
Yeah.
These are some rough seas, and you need a strong captain, a strong leader. Look, they're scared. They just might not show it, right?
Yeah.
The strong ones. But, that's where that culture, as we get back to that, begins.
Yeah. Well, they may not show it, but here's a message to leaders. It's okay to show it, right? It's okay to say, I don't know. I don't have the answer. What do you have? What could we do different to have a different result if we're struggling? In the next 12 to 24 months, I think are going to be interesting for our specific industry, the real estate industry, and probably all of them, right? We're going to have changes. We're always going to do that. And let's take that and say, okay, so now we've got the leader that is in that growth mindset, and that's great. But are you, as a leader, as a sales leader or any type of leadership position, are you hiring in alignment with that?
Sure. Yeah, I knew you were getting there.
Well, that's a critical piece of it, right?
Yeah.
Are you hiring for people that are going to stay in a box and just do exactly what you tell them to do, or are you going to have some that are going to grow with you?
Sure.
Right? So what are you seeing on that side?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I think, yeah. I mean, I've seen it where people are just in alignment of being inside this box, and yet, look, I ran a big real estate brokerage and whatnot, and what helped me to be a better leader is I had better people that came to work with me, right? And they pushed and they pushed and they pushed and they pushed. And if I wanted to stay in that role, I had to be better. I had to become better. And we did. And we grew a nice giant real estate brokerage that became, one of the top in the area. And yeah, it was uncomfortable. It was crazy. And it was a wild ride. And yet it was amazing. And yeah, like, wow. So yeah, but had I, just hired a bunch of sheep, we wouldn't have become we wouldn't have grown like we did. It wouldn't have put us at the level that it did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, we look at the industries and real estate in general, whether it's on the new construction side or whether it's on the general side, we have a tendency to hire um, the same people that are just coming from a different company,
Sure.
right? They
That's
don't
right.
have a different experience. They don't have outside the box experience to help us grow and do something different. They're just coming to say the same thing. I mean, how many times have you heard a realtor say, "Well, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've
Yep.
been doing this for 25." It's to me that's the first sign of, uh-oh, I'm not willing to grow. The
Yep.
person that says that, because it's like, okay,
100%.
because the one that's growing is always looking for a different and a new and a better way of doing things as opposed to doing it the same way. They're not swapping spit with their employees.
Sure.
You know?
Well, I don't know about you, Rob, but when I didn't learn this obviously immediately. I've been around a long time and I've
Mhm.
failed more times than I can count.
Yeah.
And yet I learned it somewhere. I don't know if it's a training class or just from observation or having conversations and whatnot. I don't hire off a resume. I
Yes.
hire excuse me, if I could talk today, I hire hungry, humble, and smart, right? Resume is great, and yet I'm not just hiring you because you've been a realtor for 20 years. You know what I'm talking about, or
Yeah.
you've been in a role for 20 years. Your experience is, oftentimes, as you just stated, no different there than it is here. And I don't need more of the same.
Yeah.
If I want to get to where I want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. You said hungry, humble, and smart.
Yeah, not the first time. I mumbled the first time.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Yeah, more coffee, buddy, more coffee. Um, but that's huge. In are we willing to go find the hungry, humble, smart, as opposed to the resume that's on there? And by the way, side note to those that are looking to build their teams, if you've got somebody that's hungry, humble, smart, and that you are very interested in, I guarantee you that somebody else does too.
Yeah. Oh,
So
without question.
you may want to speed up your process before somebody else says
Yeah,
yes.
my friend, we're not alone. I mean,
No.
there are many leaders at many companies out there that think like we do. We're not. I mean, we're not alone, and we're certainly not, the only ones. There are others that think that way.
Yeah. So Theodore, I saw the comment on there with the mindset is everything. So you're, hungry, humble, smart. You just said mindset,
Yeah,
in three different words, kind of when you're looking at
yeah,
hungry, humble, and smart, all of those go into that mindset piece, right?
sure,
All of it starts with you as a leader.
yeah,
Are you hungry, humble, and smart
yeah,
as a leader,
yeah,
right? As opposed to just hanging around to get a paycheck,
sure.
which we see on lots of different things. So,
Uh,
all right.
Sweet. So we
Yeah.
talked about starts with a leader.
Yeah.
Then we talked about it's our talent,
Yeah.
right?
And so teams within teams,
Yeah,
go talk about that a little bit, because it's, supposedly everybody's going in the same direction. But the reality is, are we going in the same direction? And are we diving deep enough into each individual team member's goals and directions? And are they aligned with that bigger corporate direction?
sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not as what I learned, and just share my experiences, right? So it wasn't about, this is a constant thing. This is not you go cast a vision one time and you hire a bunch of people and you say, here we go.
Yeah.
Right. This is a constant and ongoing thing where you get this boat, this ship, everybody rowing in the same direction. It takes a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
If this is you're communicating that vision, if not daily, weekly, monthly, all that stuff, to rally that, because you do see that, in these big organizations, you got different departments and stuff. And while it may appear that everybody's on the same page, oftentimes they're not necessarily. What you showing me?
Well, I'm getting to this because you're leading right into this one.
I mean, oftentimes they're not. We think they are, and yet maybe they're not. And then it's basically just humming along. There's no real growth. There's not this focused, growth that there needs to be. There's the collaboration's lacking. Like it's just going like this, right? It's just kind of running, but it's not growing. Neither are your people. Like there's a whole slew of things we could get into.
Oh God, yeah. Well, the collaboration piece, right? Are you having masterminds within your company? Are you having peer groups within your company? Are you having peer partners and teams for them to bounce things off of? Are you constantly training on the skills, the knowledge, and the systems to grow and to do that? Or do they go through your initial onboarding and then you forget them?
Sure.
Which is a big piece. And we can go down that rabbit hole all day long too. But then here's the other piece that you just said. People get comfortable in their position, right? And they don't grow. And that's a leadership issue when that happens. But then sometimes if you've hired incorrectly and you've hired the wrong person based on just the resume, going back to that piece, right?
Sure.
There's another part that we as leaders have to address. And that's this one. Can you read it?
It's backwards.
Backwards. Okay. So it's top grading, right? It's that piece. Sometimes we do have, accountability and capability is an interesting thing. We have to have those clear KPIs and targets that we're looking for.
Yep.
And we have to help people on our sales team to get there and to grow. And sometimes that's becoming a new person. And then also at the end of that piece too, there's sometimes as you and I both came from this background, as a coach them up, coach them out piece of it,
sure.
Right? It may not be the right environment, or we may have put them in the wrong position, and we have to change that part of it too. But that's a difficult piece of it, right? So how do you, when do you know when it's not right, if you have to make a change, and where do you go with that?
Yeah. I don't know that there's any, right or wrong answer. You said a couple of things there to unpack, which is, identifying talent outside of your organization, bringing it in, and then once you've got it right, coaching them up or coaching them out, right? So when we hire somebody, right, and they don't work out, it's typically one of three things. It's either you hired the wrong person, you failed to train them, or you failed to hold them accountable. Any way you look at it, it's your fault. You with me? Any way you look at it, it's your fault.
Yep.
So, so I think during the hiring process, we got to do a better job at that, right? And identifying talent rather than just off of a resume, the bigger picture. And I don't know that oftentimes you get a lot of candidates. There are a lot of people looking for work, right? There's a lot of talented people out there. Are we sifting through enough of that to find the very best, right? Especially if we're running these big organizations. That's number one. And then once we get them in, right, it's coaching them up and that kind of stuff, and making certain they get trained and holding them accountable. The ones that we've currently got with us, then of course, it's coach them up and coach them out, right?
Yeah.
Coach them up or coach them out, help them on to the next opportunity if this isn't one for them. And then I think the third piece is identifying the talent in the organization that can help you and help the organization get to where it wants to go.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we do a good enough job with that, because if you've identified talent within your organization, then you need to go and work with those individuals and find out what that future looks like for them and what they want, right? And then help them get there, which is going to help you get there.
Yeah. Well, to coach them up and coach them out, sometimes it's and top grading for sales and top, that kind of thing. People get uncomfortable with that conversation.
Sure.
You're not doing it out of spite or out of them failing or something like that. You're doing it coming from a place where you are helping them succeed.
Sure.
And whether it's with you or not with you, and making sure that that you're if it's not right, then you are helping them succeed in life by coaching them out to do
Sure.
something that more aligns with who they are or who they want to be, right?
That's an uncomfortable conversation, obviously, the coaching out part. And
Uh-huh.
yet, in my experience, anytime that I've done that, the person sitting on the other side said, "Oh, thank God. I thought, blah, blah, blah." And it was this huge relief, this huge, sigh. Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
And then they went on to find their next opportunity that was even better. And then I see them on social media and they're excelling at a high level in something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, you are doing the right thing by them, and they're going to come back and they're going to say, "Oh, thank you so much. You just changed my life." Right.
Yeah.
But you're coming from a place of care. And I know you've got it's Theodore's on here. He said the individual needs to be accountable to themselves with goals in mind. That's one of the things where you and I talk about this a little bit differently, right? But it's the same, but we use, I don't like the accountability word. And here's why. There's only one person that can hold somebody accountable, and that's that person, right? They've got to have their own why to be
Mhm.
able to go home at night and tell their kids, yes, I did what I had to do today to do the goals and to be able to pay for your food, your shelter, your college, whatever it is. Or they
Sure.
have to go home at night and say, I'm sorry, I love you, but it wasn't you're not a big enough why for me to go do that. And that sounds harsh, right?
Yeah.
But that's the reality. We are the ones that hold us. I like to hold people capable to what they can do.
There you go.
Right? It's that capability thing. You are capable of doing more. You're capable of becoming truly who you need to become to live the life that you want to, where you don't have to worry about paying for the kids' college, right? You've
Sure.
done it. You are capable, and everybody's capable if they have that mindset to do it. Yeah, we want to have the clear KPIs, the targets and things like that, but you've got to have your own why to hold yourself accountable to what you want to do, because
Sure.
accountability is that internal piece. We
I
can
go with you. I go with you 100% on that. And then, I think in business, it's, or in business, it's this nasty word, accountability, right?
yes.
And
Yeah.
everybody starts running for the fields. So
Yeah.
I like that you said capable. And, the way I always looked at it, because I had coaches in the past and stuff, and I can't remember who exactly said it, but it says, listen, let's say I reached out to you, Rob, and said, hey, will you coach me and work with me or whatever?
Mhm.
Basically what I'm saying, and hold me accountable. Basically what I'm asking you to do is to help me. So when I'm failing to meet my numbers, if I'm failing to live up to the standards that are set forth or who I desire to be, you're going to help guide me and get me back on track, right?
Yeah.
Hold me capable, as you just used the words. And
Yeah.
that, I think, when we reframe or look at accountability different, it's a whole different. It's not a bad thing,
No,
right?
no,
It
it's not. No,
wasn't supposed to be.
no. The athletic world has turned it into a bad thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That kid went out last night and he got drunk. So we're going to hold him accountable. That means we're going to get,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that's what we've come to hold it. Yeah, it's not a bad word, but
No.
let's internalize that piece. Because we're the only ones that are going to hold ourselves capable. The sales job is a very simple job, but it's not an easy job, right? But
No.
it's the most important job in the world because it is where the money comes from to pay everything else. No
Right.
one gets paid if somebody's not selling something.
Right.
We're all salespeople, right?
Okay.
Even at night. I mean, you go home and you are selling something to your wife.
That didn't work yesterday. No. Sorry.
Mine didn't either. No, that's all right. But we are all selling something every day, whether it's to the kids or to somebody we're selling ourselves in one form or another. We just
Yeah.
have to figure out what that looks like and to do it. So yeah, absolutely. You call sale, and I know you've got a hard stop. I think
I
about
do. I think we continue this. We've got
yeah,
quite another half hour minimum to
yeah.
unpack. on this
Yeah,
topic.
definitely. All right, dude. Any final words for today? We are going to do this next Thursday and continue this
No, I
conversation.
think, for those leaders out there, I'd say, listen, it starts with you. And if there's, and if you've got any struggles in your, it's your mindset, right? If you've got that challenge of fear, imposter syndrome, it's, again, it's all fear based, and yet get over it. If you need help, call someone that can help you with that. And yet it starts with you.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of somebody that is hungry, humble, and smart, because they're going to come in and they're going to make you look good.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
So
With the resume or without the resume.
You got it. Awesome. All right. Creating a winning culture, part 1, part 2 coming next week.
There you go.
Hey, you make it a fantastic day for everybody out there. Y'all make it a fantastic day, and go grow, go become uncomfortable, and become the person that you need to be to become better at who you are.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Y'all.